Guardian in the Ice. A short story from When the Bells Stop Ringing by Danny Ballin. The cold in Moscow was not a weather event. It was a living entity. It prowled the wide avenues of the Garden Ring, searching for gaps in coats and cracks in windows. It turned the Moskva River into a jagged scar of ice and white silence. Ivan adjusted his ushanka, the ear flaps tied down tight against his jaw. He sat on a metal grate behind the Kurskaya metro station. Below him, the city breathed, a rhythmic exhalation of warm, damp steam from the labyrinth of pipes that kept the skyscrapers heated. To the commuters rushing toward the station entrance, the grate was an eyesore, a cloud of fog smelling of rust and wet concrete. To Ivan, it was the difference between waking up tomorrow and freezing into a statue. He wasn't alone. Curled inside his oversized military greatcoat, a relic from a service life that felt like a different century, was Laika. She was a mongrel of indeterminate lineage, a mix of shepherd intelligence and terrier scrap. Her fur was coarse and matted with ice, but her body was a furnace against Ivan's side. A white van with blue stripes pulled up to the curb, the social patrol. A man in a thick parka stepped out, his breath pluming in the headlights. He spotted Ivan through the steam. "Grandfather," the man called out, his voice muffled by a scarf. "It's dropping to -30 tonight. Come, we have space in the gymnasium." Ivan looked up. The gymnasium meant a cot. It meant hot tea. It meant sleep without the fear of the steam dying down. He shifted his legs, stiff with arthritis, and prepared to stand. Laika stirred. She poked her nose out of his coat and let out a low woof, her tail thumping once against the metal grate. The patrolman frowned. He pointed a gloved finger. "No animals! You know the rules, grandfather. Hygiene regulations." Ivan froze. He looked at the open door of the van, promising salvation. Then he looked down at Laika. She was looking at him with eyes that held absolute, terrifying trust. She didn't know about hygiene regulations. She only knew that Ivan was her pack. "She is quiet," Ivan said, his voice raspy. "She sleeps under the cot. You won't know she is there." "I can't," the man said, checking his watch. "If I let you bring a dog, I have to let everyone bring a dog. Then it's a zoo, not a shelter. Leave her. She's a stray. She'll find a basement." Ivan looked at the snow piling up against the curb. A basement in -30? Leaving her was a death sentence. Slowly, Ivan settled back down onto the grate. He pulled the coat tighter around the dog. "Go," Ivan said. "Don't be stupid," the patrolman snapped. "You'll freeze." "I am warm," Ivan lied. He patted the dog's head. "We are fine." The patrolman shook his head, cursed the stubbornness of old men, and climbed back into the van. The taillights disappeared into the swirling snow, taking the promise of a warm bed with them. Ivan closed his eyes. He felt the steam dampening his trousers. It wasn't a comfortable heat. It was wet and cloying, but it was heat. He whispered to Laika, telling her about the summers of his youth, about fields of wheat that stretched to the horizon, trying to distract himself from the numbness creeping into his toes. An hour passed. The city grew quieter. Then footsteps crunched in the snow. Not the heavy boots of the patrol, but lighter, hesitant steps. Ivan opened one eye. A young woman was standing there. She wore a bright yellow vest over her coat, a volunteer. She was holding a thermal bag. She didn't tell him to move. She didn't lecture him about the cold. She knelt down in the snow right next to the grate. "They told me you refused the ride because of the dog," she said. Her nose was pink from the cold. Ivan grunted. "She is not a dog. She is Laika." She smiled. It was a small, sad smile. "I can't change the rules at the gym. The administrator is strict." "I know," Ivan said. "But the rules say nothing about eating dinner outside." She pulled out a heavy wool blanket, gray and thick, the kind that smelled of safety. She draped it over Ivan and the dog, tucking it around him and the dog. Then she pulled out 2 thermoses. She poured a plastic cup full of borscht, the smell of beets and dill cutting through the exhaust fumes. She handed it to Ivan. Then she took a plastic container, filled it with soup, and set it down for Laika. The dog lapped it up greedily. Ivan wrapped his hands around the cup, the heat stinging his frozen palms. He expected the girl to leave. She had done her good deed. She could go home to her Christmas Eve. Instead, she brushed the snow off the curb and sat down. "What are you doing?" Ivan asked. "It's Christmas Eve," she said, pouring a cup of tea for herself. "Nobody should eat alone on Christmas Eve." She sat with him in the freezing dark behind the metro station. She asked him about Laika. She listened as he talked about his service, about a time when he felt useful, about the world that had moved on without him. Ivan drank his soup. He felt the warmth of the blanket, the warmth of the dog against his ribs, and the warmth of this stranger's presence. He looked at the steam rising from the vent, mixing with the steam from their cups, rising toward the city lights. He wasn't in a warm gymnasium. He didn't have a roof. But as Laika rested her head on his knee and the girl laughed at one of his old army jokes, Ivan realized he wasn't homeless. Home wasn't bricks and mortar. Home was loyalty. Home was the refusal to abandon those you loved and the kindness of a stranger who saw that loyalty and honored it. "Thank you," Ivan whispered into the steam. "Merry Christmas, Ivan," the girl said. And in the ice of Moscow, under the orange glow of the street lamps, the old soldier and his dog slept soundly, guarded by a blanket and a friend.
A prayer for the creatures we keep. Let us speak now to the loyalty that cannot be measured in words. Let us speak to the fur that is warmer than any shelter, and the heartbeat that is steadier than any promise. To the bonds we forge with the creatures who walk beside us in the cold. We are told that they are lesser, that they are property, that they are disposable in the face of human need. But in the deepest winter of our lives, when the world has turned its back and the doors are locked against us, we know the truth. They are the guardians of our souls. They are the only ones who do not judge the poverty of our circumstances, but only the richness of our love. Let us confess the arrogant truth to one another. We think we are the ones who save them. We think we are the masters, the providers, the rescuers. But when the temperature drops and the silence grows loud, we realize that we are the ones being saved. We are being saved from the crushing weight of solitude. We are being saved by a nose nudged against a frozen hand, by a tail that thumps against the grate, by eyes that look at us and see not a failure, but a whole world. Let us ask for the courage to honor that devotion, to refuse the comfort that demands we abandon the ones we love, to say no to the warm bed if it means leaving our heart behind in the snow, to understand that survival is not just about keeping the body alive, it is about keeping the spirit intact, and the spirit cannot survive betrayal. May we be grateful for the volunteers who see the whole picture, the ones who understand that a man and his dog are not 2 separate problems to be solved, but a single family to be preserved. the ones who bring the soup to the curb because they know that love does not fit into a rule book. Let us learn the lesson of the steam vent. Home is not a place, it is a pact. It is the stubborn refusal to let go. It is the shared shivering. It is the knowledge that as long as we have each other, we are not truly lost. So, let us wrap the blanket a little tighter around the ones who cannot speak their gratitude. Let us share the last of the meal. Let us sit in the cold and find that it is bearable, because we are not facing it alone. May we be worthy of the trust they place in us. And may we find that in caring for the least of these, we have found the greatest part of ourselves. We stay together. That is the law of love. We stay.
When you first read this story, you really felt that cold, didn't you?
Oh, immediately.
It's not just a chill, it's this deep, penetrating anxiety. This isn't just Moscow in December. It feels like Moscow has been weaponized.
That's a great way to put it. The narrative just plunges you right in. There's no gentle introduction. It's straight into this profound physical threat.
A life or death scenario, and it's all playing out on, of all things, a rusted metal grate.
Yeah.
But the thing that makes it so unforgettable isn't just the brutality of the cold itself, it's the warmth.
Exactly. The unexpected, almost miraculous warmth that's generated by the loyalty between Ivan and his dog, Laika.
It sets the stakes right away. It's this single beating heart fighting against the frozen stillness of a huge, indifferent city. It's a gut punch of a beginning that really forces you to redefine what survival even means.
And that immediate emotional landscape is just so essential. The cold acts as a crucible, you know? It forces this clarity of choice that everyday life often lets us ignore. This is so much more than a tale of endurance. It's a really rigorous philosophical look at the human-animal bond and how that bond completely redefines the whole concept of home.
Right.
The real antagonist here isn't the weather. It's the systems, the rules of society that fail to account for things like love or dignity or this incredible mutual dependency.
So it sets up this clash between the rigid letter of the law and the spirit of compassion.
It does. It asks a really tough question. In a life or death situation, where do you draw the line between following a rule and committing an act of abandonment?
So the atmosphere in those opening paragraphs is just breathtaking. It makes you tense up immediately.
It really does.
The way the story opens by saying the cold was not a weather event, it was a living entity. That line lands with such an impact, I felt colder just reading it.
And that's the whole point, isn't it? That instantaneous, visceral reaction is crucial to understanding what the character is up against.
So how does the author do that? How do they make the weather feel like a villain?
Well, it's a literary device called personification, but it's pushed way beyond a simple description. The author takes this abstract idea of cold and gives it these sentient, almost malicious qualities.
It's not just cold air.
No, it's a predatory force. It's not just background noise. The cold is an aggressor that Ivan has to actively fight, moment by moment.
And the verbs used are so predatory, it doesn't just sit there. It prowled the wide avenues of the garden ring, searching for gaps in coats and cracks in windows.
See? That makes the cold an intelligent hunter.
Yeah, it's targeting weakness. It's not just meteorology. It's like a surveillance system looking for any vulnerability it can find.
Precisely. And by giving the cold intent, the author raises the stakes for Ivan exponentially. The environment is actively trying to kill him. It's fascinating, actually, because this connects so deeply to certain Russian literary traditions.
In what way?
Well, nature, and especially winter, often functions as this vast, impassive, and sometimes merciless character. It reflects the existential struggle of human life against these huge forces. You see it in writers like Gogol or, the crushing societal indifference in Dostoevsky. The environment becomes a mirror for the character's internal battle.
And this menacing cold, it transforms the landscape itself. The Moskva River, which should be this symbol of life and movement, is turned into a jagged scar of ice and white silence.
That word scar is so potent.
It implies damage, right? A wound that's healed badly. And the white silence suggests a total absence of life. It's a stillness that's kind of beautiful but also terrifying.
Which brings us right to Ivan's refuge, this spot that is just layered with irony and symbolism, the metal grate behind the Kurskaya metro station.
Think about that for a second. Metal is usually the enemy of warmth. It just sucks heat away from you.
And yet here, he's literally sitting on the city's discarded breath. the exhaust from its heating systems. His life is sustained by the unseen infrastructure that's heating all the privileged interiors.
It's the ultimate contrast. For the commuters rushing by, that grate is just an eyesore, a cloud of fog smelling of rust and wet concrete.
An obstruction. A nuisance. For them, it's literally just waste.
But for Ivan, that exact same spot is the thin line between survival and becoming another frozen statue. The story says it's the difference between waking up tomorrow and freezing into a statue.
And that forces us, the readers, to really internalize that massive contrast and perspective. The city's waste heat, a byproduct of comfortable living, is the only thing keeping this man alive. It's a powerful symbol of societal indifference, isn't it?
It is. The city offers its cast-off heat, but not its actual shelter. And to really ground us in this brutal, specifically Russian environment, we get these great linguistic details. Ivan adjusts his Hushushanka. Now, for anyone unfamiliar, this isn't just any old hat.
No, absolutely not. The ushanka is the quintessential Russian fur cap, with the big ear flaps you can tie up or fasten under your chin. It's a powerful cultural symbol.
Of what exactly?
Of resilience, of tradition, and just sheer necessity against the Russian winter. So when the story says he's tying those flaps down tight, it's not a casual act. It's a desperate, almost military maneuver against this aggressive cold. It places you immediately in a geography where fighting the elements is just a way of life.
And then there's the description of the steam itself. It uses a word that really enhances that sense of discomfort. Cloying.
That's a brilliant choice of word.
This steam is described as wet and cloying heat. Usually when I hear cloying, I think of something overly sweet. How does it work here?
It's used to convey this oppressive quality. So while Ivan needs the heat, the steam isn't this pure, comfortable warmth. Cloying here suggests that the heat is excessively damp, sticky, oppressive.
So you feel like you're being suffocated by it, even as it's saving you.
Exactly. It implies the heat comes at a cost. It prevents any kind of true restorative rest. It's a miserable necessity, not a luxury.
And it's in this miserable necessary heat that we meet the other half of this duo, Laika. I love her description. A mongrel of indeterminate lineage, a mix of shepherd and intelligence and terrier scrap.
That language tells you everything you need to know, doesn't it? She's tough, she's resourceful, she's sharp. A true survivor.
Just like Ivan.
Exactly. She mirrors his own tenacity. But their relationship is immediately defined by this mutual dependence, both physical and emotional. Her body is literally a furnace against Ivan's side.
And that's not just sentimental writing, it's pure physics.
It's thermal physics in action. Ivan provides the only meager shelter he has, his greatcoat, which is this relic from a past life where he was useful. And Laika provides the vital, immediate heat they need to maintain their shared core temperature.
So they're a perfectly balanced, codependent ecosystem of survival.
Wrapped up in a single freezing coat, they're a unit. And if you remove one piece of that system, the whole thing just collapses.
Which sets the stage so powerfully for the terrible choice that's about to come.
Exactly. So having established these almost existential stakes with the cold, the outside world intrudes, and with it comes this promise of salvation.
The white van, the social patrol. And the offer is so practical, so immediate, and just overwhelmingly tempting.
Everything the body is crying out for.
Space in the gymnasium, a cot, and most importantly, hot tea. I mean, given that it's -30, this isn't just charity, it's a guaranteed lifeline, a guaranteed tomorrow.
And the tension builds as Ivan starts to respond. He shifts his legs, and they're described as stiff with arthritis. He's getting ready to accept.
That detail about the arthritis is so important. It reminds you of his physical vulnerability. He's old, he's worn down, he's in pain. Biologically, he's primed to accept this comfort.
And then, Laika stirs. She pokes her nose out, makes a low woof, her tail thumping once. She has no idea what's happening. She just recognizes movement. She trusts him.
Implicitly. And that is the exact moment the world hits them with this absolute, unyielding barrier. The patrolman delivers the verdict. No animals. You know the rules, grandfather. Hygiene regulations.
And if the cold was the villain of nature, that phrase, hygiene regulations, is the villain of man.
It's the perfect representation of institutional cruelty, isn't it? It's not driven by malice.
No, not at all. It's driven by rigid adherence to protocol. It represents the impersonal, unyielding side of society that prioritizes these abstract ideas of cleanliness and order over compassion. over-recognizing the bond between two living, dependent beings.
The rules are absolute. They're designed for efficiency, but they completely fail when you apply them to a complex human reality like this.
And it's the patrolman's attempt to rationalize it that really drives the point home. He says, if I let you bring a dog, I have to let everyone bring a dog. Then it's a zoo, not a shelter.
Classic bureaucratic fear. Fear of disorder, fear of losing control.
He can't bend the rule for one, even if bending it means saving a life, because he's worried about the precedent it sets for the many. The irony is, in trying to maintain order, he's demanding an act of profound disorder, tearing apart a family unit that is functioning perfectly well in survival mode.
And the story captures the agony of Ivan's choice so well. He looks at the open door, the van guaranteed warmth, and then he looks down at Laika. Her eyes held absolute terrifying trust.
That phrase, terrifying trust, is one of the most powerful emotional anchors in the whole story.
Why terrified?
Because that trust gives him this immense responsibility. Ivan realizes that to accept that comfort, he has to commit an act of profound, irrevocable betrayal. Laika's life, her faith, her whole existence is entirely in his hands.
It just flips the whole thing on its head. The rules offer physical salvation, but they demand spiritual destruction.
And Ivan knows that abandoning Laika to -30 is a death sentence. The choice isn't just between being warm and cold, it's between saving his body and destroying his soul.
Which form of survival truly matters? It's an immediate, absolute moral dilemma. He tries to negotiate. She is quiet, she sleeps under the cot.
But the rules have no room for negotiation, no nuance. And so Ivan makes the only choice his spirit will allow. He settles back down, pulls the dog closer, and he utters that crucial lie. Go, I am warm.
It's a lie, yes, but it's an act of profound defining truth.
It is. It's him solidifying his pact with Laika. He's declaring that the external warmth of society is worthless if it means sacrificing the internal warmth of loyalty and love. His identity is now completely linked to that commitment.
And the immediate societal consequence is just swift and dismissive. The patrolman curses the stubbornness of old men.
Which is such a profound misunderstanding. Ivan's devotion is just labeled as folly, a character defect, instead of what it is, a demonstration of high moral integrity.
The taillights disappear, and with them, the promise of a warm bed. And now they're truly alone, facing the worst part of the night.
So how does he cope with the extreme physical consequences of choosing loyalty over logic? He doesn't just despair. He redirects his energy outward to protect Laika emotionally, even as his own body starts to freeze.
Right, distraction is a survival mechanism. He starts whispering about the summers of his youth, about fields of wheat.
He's literally conjuring a counter-narrative of warmth in life against the immediate reality of cold and death.
And he's doing it not just for himself, but for Laika, to keep her focused, to keep her steady.
And that small action shows that his devotion isn't just some sudden burst of sentiment. It's the defining characteristic of his life now. His priority is the emotional well-being of his dog, even at the expense of his own physical well-being. It is a monumental act of selflessness in the face of incredible pain.
It makes you realize the true cost of that loyalty. It costs him physical safety, but it preserves something far more essential: his self-respect, his dignity. And just when things seem completely impossible, when the cost of his loyalty seems like it's about to be measured in frostbite, the whole atmosphere shifts. We go from the heavy, authoritative boots of the patrolman to a new sound, lighter, more hesitant footsteps. And this introduces the unconventional helper, the volunteer, who stands out because of that bright yellow vest.
That shift in sound and sight is so critical. The yellow vest, a color of warmth, of visibility, it just cuts through the gray and the white of the Moscow night. She represents the intrusion of genuine humanity into this bureaucratic wasteland.
And her whole approach is a complete reversal of the patrolman's. She didn't tell him to move, she didn't lecture him. Instead, she validated his choice.
Yes, she recognized the integrity in his refusal. When she says, "They told me you refused the ride because of the dog," she's not seeing stubbornness, she's seeing a moral commitment.
That acknowledgement is the first step in restoring his dignity. He's being seen, truly seen, not as a problem to be processed, but as a man who made a difficult, honorable decision.
And this leads to the most beautiful moment of conflict resolution in the story, the compassionate workaround. She can't change the shelter's rules, but she realizes that the spirit of caring goes beyond protocol. She says, "The rules say nothing about eating dinner outside."
It's the loophole of love.
That's perfect. It highlights the difference between people who uphold rules rigidly and people who use creativity and compassion to honor the spirit of the law. The goal is saving lives and preserving dignity, and if the main path is blocked, someone with real empathy will find another way.
And her actions are so meticulous, so practical. They're all focused on providing layers of warmth. She pulls out this heavy wool blanket, described as the kind that smelled of safety.
And that's so evocative. Safety has a physical smell here, the scent of clean, thick wool that acts as both a physical and a psychological barrier against that penetrating cold.
And then the food. The 2 thermoses and the steaming borscht. That smell beets and dill is described as cutting through the exhaust fumes.
That's a powerful olfactory contrast, the smell of home and nourishment overwhelming the smell of urban decay and neglect.
We should probably explain borscht a little. It's more than just soup, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's a traditional Eastern European staple, usually beet-based, deeply savory, often with meat or cream. It's the ultimate comfort and survival food for harsh climates. A hearty meal designed for maximum caloric density to fight the cold.
So bringing in borscht isn't just giving him calories.
No, it's bringing him a piece of home, of culture, of traditional comfort when he has none of those things. And it's all delivered in a thermal bag-specific technical equipment.
Which shows she's a professional. Her assistance is organized, systematic, but it's delivered with this profound personal attention.
And crucially, she doesn't just focus on Ivan. She immediately puts down a container for Laika, treating the dog not as an obstacle, but as an equal member of this family unit.
But the real intervention isn't the supplies, it's the presence. The fact that this all happens on Christmas Eve, a time that's universally associated with togetherness and warmth, whatever your faith is.
The girl says, nobody should eat alone on Christmas Eve. And then she does this radical thing. She sits down, she brushes snow off the curb and sits.
That's the moment the whole spiritual meaning of the story just crystallizes. In the context of homelessness, of social invisibility, simply sitting next to someone, offering your presence, is a revolutionary act.
By sitting on that freezing curb next to him, she's committing a physical act of solidarity. She's saying, you are worthy of my time, and I am not afraid of your circumstances. She breaks down all those visible barriers of class and status just by sharing the cold with him.
And that presence allows Ivan to reclaim his identity. She listens as he talks about his military service, a time when he felt useful, about the world that had moved on without him.
Think about what solitude does. It strips away your identity and reduces you to your current, meager circumstances. By listening to his past, the volunteer gives Ivan back his dignity. She sees him not as grandfather, the homeless man, but as Ivan the veteran, a man with a valuable history. And that validation is more restorative than any hot tea could ever be.
The story really emphasizes this multi-sensory blend of warmth that's now surrounding them.
The wool blanket, Laika's body heat, the steam from the vent mixing with the steam from their cups, and above all, the human warmth of this stranger's presence.
This layered comfort creates this temporary, almost sacred bubble of safety in the most desolate place imaginable.
It is the highest form of compassion, seeing a need and filling it creatively while honoring the person's own choices. She didn't fix his circumstances, but she fundamentally transformed his situation from one of despair and isolation into one of connection and belonging. She didn't enable his predicament, she validated his loyalty.
And this shared moment of kindness leads to the story's emotional and intellectual climax, Ivan's epiphany. Sitting there on that cold metal grate, having deliberately chosen the cold over the shelter, he has this sudden, profound realization. Ivan realized he wasn't homeless.
This is the entire reason the story exists. This one line. It completely redefines one of our most central human concepts. Home.
The physical lack, no walls, no roof, no cot, it all becomes irrelevant.
Utterly irrelevant, because it's measured against the spiritual fulfillment and ethical consistency he has. He chose integrity, and in that choice, he created a stable internal home.
And the story gives us this incredible definition, which is the absolute core message. Home wasn't bricks and mortar. Home was loyalty. Home was the refusal to abandon those you loved and the kindness of a stranger who saw that loyalty and honored it.
We have to unpack that quote piece by piece. It's so rich. It shifts home from being a passive noun, a structure, to being an active, moral state of being.
So home was loyalty. That's the foundation.
Right. It means stability is generated internally through reciprocal commitment, not externally through property ownership.
And then home was the refusal to abandon those you loved. This connects directly back to the bureaucratic cruelty of the rules.
Exactly. His home was defined by what he rejected. He refused the comfort that demanded a betrayal. And that refusal is what solidifies the structure of their life together.
And the last part. And the kindness of a stranger who saw that loyalty and honored it.
This brings in the social component. A true home, even one defined by loyalty, it needs occasional affirmation and support from the wider human community. The volunteer didn't try to change his loyalty, she just added a temporary roof of care to the structure he'd already built. She saw his pact, recognized its moral weight, and in doing so became an essential, though temporary, part of their family.
The story concludes not with some miraculous physical rescue, but with this deep internal feeling of resolution. He's still in the grate, but the moral landscape is transformed.
Laika rests her head on his knee. The girl is laughing. He feels guarded by a blanket and a friend. It's a powerful illustration that safety and belonging are states of mind, not a street address.
It ends on a note of absolute peace, right in the heart of winter. The simple farewell, "Merry Christmas, Ivan." It just acknowledges the spiritual significance of the moment.
It places him squarely within the realm of shared humanity, breaking the social isolation imposed on him. He's safe because he's seen, and his deepest commitment has been validated. The physical cold is still there, but the spiritual warmth is undeniable.
It's a testament to the power of a deeply felt, unconditional bond. The pact between the man and his dog was his moral compass, and a single act of radical kindness just reaffirmed that his compass was pointing true north.
And this is where the story transitions into that powerful, almost liturgical text, a prayer for the creatures we keep. It shifts the perspective from Ivan's specific story to a universal meditation on the ethics and spiritual rewards of unconditional loyalty.
It uses this immediately resonant metaphorical language. It speaks to the loyalty that cannot be measured in words, and it describes the physical parts of this bond, the fur that is warmer than any shelter, and the heartbeat that is steadier than any promise.
I love that contrast. The steady heartbeat is elevated above any human vow, any political pledge, any bureaucratic assurance. The physical reality of the creature is more reliable than human words.
Which is a pretty powerful indictment of human unreliability.
It is. Humans break promises, but that steady heartbeat is an absolute constant, an unwavering source of emotional stability. And the text then gets into how the world sees these creatures, using this chilling language. The world sees them as lesser property, or most functionally, disposable.
That word disposable is so cold, so functional.
It implies they can be easily discarded when they become inconvenient or expensive or
A threat to hygiene regulations.
Precisely. This is exactly what Ivan was asked to do. Treat Laika as disposable property that he needed to shed to get comfortable.
But the prayer completely flips that utility. It argues that when the human world turns its back, these creatures become the guardians of our souls.
They don't judge the poverty of our circumstances, only the richness of our love. This is the spiritual core of the analysis. They provide a pure, non-judgmental love that cuts through the shame and isolation of homelessness.
Which leads to that core self-reflection. The transactional nature of the bond is tilted in favor of the human. The text says, we think we are the ones who save them. But when the temperature drops and the silence grows loud, we realize that we are the ones being saved. Saved from what?
Saved from the ultimate human tragedy, the crushing weight of solitude. Ivan wasn't just fighting the cold, he was fighting the psychological warfare of being utterly alone.
Laika's presence, her need, her absolute trust, it all gave him a vital reason to endure.
He was saved from despair, from isolation, and the text identifies the simple physical ways this salvation happens. A nose nudged against a frozen hand, or a tail that clumps against the grate. These aren't grand gestures. They are small, consistent anchors that stop the human spirit from just drifting away into oblivion.
The prayer then establishes a clear moral mandate, which directly references Ivan's choice, to refuse the comfort that demands we abandon the ones we love.
It elevates his refusal from just an act of defiance into a high ethical standard.
Absolutely, it's a powerful call for moral courage. To say no to the warm bed if it means leaving our heart behind in the snow.
This confirms that Ivan wasn't acting illogically, he was prioritizing his spiritual survival. Betrayal, in this context, isn't just abandoning a dog, it's an act of self-destruction. The spirit, the text says, cannot survive betrayal. And that's the line that separates just biological function from truly living a life of integrity.
And this moral framework is then extended to the outside world, to the volunteers. The prayer praises those who see the whole picture, those who recognize the profound connection between the human and the animal.
And this is a critical ethical insight. The compassionate volunteers understand that a man and his dog are not two separate problems to be solved, but a single family to be preserved.
Bureaucracy dictates separation.
Compassion demands preservation of the unit. And this connects so profoundly to the universal spirit of Christmas, or just universal humanism recognizing dignity in the least of these, prioritizing love over rigid procedure and demanding creative solutions. Kindness is not a luxury, it's a moral imperative that requires effort.
Like bringing steaming borscht to a curb.
Exactly like that.
The thematic conclusion summarizes it all so perfectly. Home is not a place, it is a pact. It is the stubborn refusal to let go.
That pact, that refusal, is what gives life structure and meaning when every material possession, every conventional comfort is stripped away.
And this loyalty provides the ultimate reward mentioned in the prayer. In caring for the least of these, we have found the greatest part of ourselves.
Ivan's decision to forego physical comfort wasn't really a sacrifice. It was a discovery. The discovery of the moral fortitude and the depth of love within himself. He saved his dignity, and in doing so, he found his truest home.
It really forces you to examine your own life and your priorities. When faced with that defining choice rules, convenience, comfort versus the unconditional love of those who depend on you, what would you choose? Would you sacrifice that immediate, guaranteed warmth for the sake of an enduring spiritual bond? Ivan, sitting under the orange glow of a Moscow street lamp, answered that question with the courage of a true guardian. That's a powerful thought to carry with you.
Indeed. The story is a powerful reminder that while the cold might define the setting, the loyalty is what defines the soul. And sometimes the highest moral ground is a freezing cold metal grate shared with a faithful friend.
We hope you related to this story. If these moments of quiet connection and hope resonated with you, we're thrilled to tell you that the full collection, When the Bells Don't Ring by Danny Ballin, is now available on Amazon and everywhere books are sold. Danny wrote this book to bring a little light to the quieter, sometimes harder moments of the season. It makes for a truly meaningful Christmas gift for anyone who loves literary fiction and heartwarming tales. You can find the link to buy or gift a copy right now in the description. Thank you for listening and for reading. We'll see you in the next episode. Never stop learning and hoping with English Plus Podcast.